What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news as Bungie have decided to give us a Season 23 weapon tuning preview. So, kind of earlier than I expected right here, but as always, they break down a bunch of changes they'll be launching next season, including general balance changes for legendary weapons and archetypes. There will be a whole bunch of PvE buffs for weapons. On top of that though, there are some exotic changes. Bungie are buffing Vex Mythoclast, as well as Revision 0, and all of the exotic glaives in the game. As always, there are a couple of minor nerfs in there too, as well as some adjustments for perks, and they outline some changes coming in the mid-season patch for Season 23, and stuff that we'll get in Final Shape and beyond. So, quite a few things to touch on right here. As always, I hope you find the video useful. Be sure to give us your thoughts below as well, but now, let's get into it. And so the first change worth noting right here, Bungie gets straight in. And so for auto rifles in Season 23, they'll be increasing their damage versus minor combatants by 10%. And they say this should narrow the gap in effectiveness between SMGs and auto rifles without overstepping their bounds and invalidating other classes of weapons. So straight away a small PvE buff there for autos, which is positive. Then in general, they say they've discovered a couple of weapons with mistimed ammunition loading animations, and that includes Drang and Zauli's Bane, so they'll both now load ammo at the correct point in the animation. But then getting onto pulse rifles, they will be increasing damage against minor red bar and major orange bar combatants by 12.5%, so another small PvE bump right there, but of course these can be quite noticeable. And then they get into glaives, and this is in general, and they point out that glaive projectiles are generally just slow enough that they feel unreliable to use against fast moving targets, plus that projectiles feel underpowered compared to other special ammo options like fusions and shotguns, so they're increasing projectile speed for glaives by 30%, as well as increasing projectile damage in PvE by 25%, so those are good baseline changes, plus they're decreasing projectile damage in PvP, where aggressives will do 125, adaptives will do 113, and rapid fires will do 101 damage. On top of that, they talk about glaive melees, and they're reducing the delay after firing before you can melee from 0.75 seconds to 0.2 seconds, so compared to how it is now, it'll be more or less instantaneous. And then with shields, they've made the shield energy now recharge passively when a glaive is held at a rate of 1% per second. On top of that, they've set up the base glaive shield damage resistance to be tiered in PvP, so base glaive shield damage resistance remains at 50%, but damage resistance against primary ammo weapons and melee attacks has been reduced to 30%. So there are some specifics to the general glaive changes right there. They get into exotic changes in just a moment, but otherwise for general archetypes and sniper rifles, they're increasing sniper PvE damage with a flat buff of 15%, although it says it does apply to exotic snipers that use heavy ammo as well. So it's going to be interesting to take some of those for a spin. It's probably generally a change that's needed in PvE, so we'll see how that feels and let us know your thoughts on the general archetype changes down below. Next though, they talk about Vex Mythoclast. This is getting a couple of damage changes, so they're increasing damage versus minor red bar combatants by 10%, for bosses that'll be by 25%, and for champions it'll go up by 200% when in the linear fusion rifle mode. Give us your thoughts below, potentially could make Vex a bit more viable once again in PvE. And then for Revision 0, pretty basic one, but they're increasing damage versus champions by 100%. Obviously it has intrinsic anti-barrier there as well, so that could be an interesting one. Plus they talk a bit about Thorn, and they say it will be getting both a catalyst to bring its strength up in PvP and a change to the base behavior to make it more fun to use in PvE. So from now, picking up a remnant can overflow the magazine up to 40 rounds, and the catalyst provides plus 20 range, plus 10 stability, and getting kills or picking up a remnant grants additional range, handling, and mobility. So potentially pretty juicy right there for Thorn altogether. But now they talk about the class glaives, and they say alongside the Glaive Rework mentioned above, there'll be additional tuning for the Witch Queen class glaives. And so these changes apply to all three of the class glaives. Firstly, they grant 1 ammo when you activate the perk, so you can use it even if you're out of ammo. And on top of that, they no longer passively drain shield energy when you special reload to activate the perk, and are no longer deactivated by reloading or stowing the weapon. So those are some good changes there that apply at base to all three of those glaives. And in addition, for the Edge of Intent Warlock glaive, they point out that it's been begging for some Solar 3.0 interaction instead of the previous generic healing effect. So they've changed the effect of the healing turret projectiles to grant cures and provide restoration, as well as increasing the AoE radius to 8 meters to benefit more nearby allies, and they've increased its magazine size from 4 to 5. So potentially that could be pretty good. We'll see what it's like in the game. But for the edge of action for Titans, said they want to make the baby bubble more effective in endgame content, so it now provides some benefits to weapons just for passing through it. And so passing through the bubble now grants bonus reload speed, handling, and a small amount of stacking bonus damage in addition to the overshield. But they have reduced the health of the bubble from 8,000 to 2,500 to account for the increased uptime and improved effect. So an interesting mix of changes there. Then finally for the edge of concurrence for hunters, they say they feel that the Lightning Seeker presented a fun opportunity for an Arc 3.0 interaction. So Lightning Seeker now jolts targets on impact, but they have reduced the hit damage of Lightning Seeker to account for the free ammo granted. So having jolt on that will be interesting. Kinda hard to say how it'll feel until we get it in the game, but give us your impressions on those changes on paper at least down below. Next up though, for Osteo Striga, they are removing the SMG damage bonus scaler that was affecting poison damage, and this will bring Osteo Striga poison down to match standard necrotic grip poison, although as an exotic they say it will still deal 40% bonus damage against minors. And they point out that the damage scaler affecting poison damage in the way that it has made it difficult for other weapons to compete in the ad clear role, and so that's why they're deciding to make this change. Definitely there'll be some disappointment about that one, although I'm sure it will still be a solid weapon, but give us your thoughts below. Here though, for Salvation's grip, they say they've placed a speed limit on the detection when damaging stasis crystals, and this will help prevent the detonation from being able to shatter too many crystals in a single frame, which sometimes kicks the player to orbit with an error code. That's an interesting one. There will also be a change for Winterbite though, and they've increased the detonation damage of the large projectile by 25%, plus the self-damage blast radius has been halved, and the self-damage has been reduced. So a bit of a bump there for Winterbite, and keep in mind some of the other changes we've outlined will also affect all of the glaives in the game, so I'm certainly looking forward to taking those glaives for a spin. And right here finally for perks, they say for Danger Zone they've made a small change to how it works on rocket launchers, but players will have to figure it out for themselves when Season 23 drops. That's a curious one. Also though, for Heavy Grip, they say they've discovered that the perk was slightly increasing incoming flinch, which wasn't intended, and that's been removed. Then for Precision Instrument, the difference between the base version and enhanced version was barely noticeable in practice, so we wanted to differentiate the two. And they've increased the enhanced Precision Instrument damage bonus at max stacks from 26 to 30%. And finally for Kinetic Tremors, they say they want to make the activation requirements more consistent across archetypes. So they're changing the number of hits needed to trigger it on some weapons, and for pulse rifles, the common version is reduced from 12 to 11, with the enhanced increased from 9 to 10. Then for non-burst sidearms, common is reduced from 12 to 8, with enhanced reduced from 9 to 7. But very finally, they do drop a little tease for the mid-season patch for Season 23, and so they say they'll be looking at bow tuning in PvP, and additional weapon tuning for Checkmate, aimed at promoting a better diversity of weapons. But in the far future, they add that Necrochasm will be getting a buff to extend the duration of the poison damage over time effect that it applies from Cursed Thrall explosions. And it will also have a new catalyst called One for Thrall, which grants a moderate period of increased damage, range, and aim assist after you damage 3 enemies in quick succession. And damaging 3 more enemies while the perk is active refreshes the timer. So that's certainly interesting, but there will be buffs for Truth, Colony, and Deadman's Tail, as well as other exotic weapons, and heavy grenade launchers will get a substantial inventory buff in future as well. So quite a few weapon changes to take on board there, guys. Once again, give us your thoughts down below. I think there are a bunch of positives, but as always, we need to experience those things in game. But for now, that does it for the unexpected weapon tuning reveal for next season today. So let us know what you think in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed the video, a rating below very much helps us out. Plus, be sure to get subscribed to the channel for more Destiny content. But otherwise, I hope you guys have an awesome day.